sorry, what? Oh, that's okay. And then, you know, I didn't laugh at it, and then I thought, well, don't know. Why would they know? So it was a little awkward.
From you.
Which one? And I didn't want to embarrass them. I was like, this is the way we do this from outside.
Our opening words this morning come from the Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker. Let us covenant with one another to keep faith with the sources of life, knowing that we are not our own, the earth made us. Let us covenant with one another to keep faith with the community of resistance, never to forget that life can be saved from that which threatens it, by even small bands of people choosing to put into practice an alternative way of life. And let us covenant with one another to seek for an ever deeper awareness of that which springs up with us inwardly. Even when our hearts are broken by our own failure or the failure of others. Even when we have done all that we can and life is still broken. There is a universal love that has never broken faith with us and never will. This is the ground of our hope and the reason we can be bold in seeking to fulfill the promise. Welcome to worship this morning. Con espíritu de reverencia, reconocemos que nos juntamos esta mañana en la tierra de los Kumeyaay, quienes continúan viviendo en todo su territorio. Al emprender este viaje juntos, mantengamos en nuestros corazones y mentes el pueblo Kumeyaay. In a spirit of reverence, we acknowledge that we gather this morning on the land of the Kumeyaay, who continue to live throughout their territories. May the light of this candle shine for our commitment to the Kumeyaay people and to justice and equity for Indigenous people everywhere.
And now we invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing our opening hymn, We Give Thanks.
Good morning, and welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of San Diego, where we worship each Sunday in the South Bay, in Hillcrest, and online. Our mission is to create community, nurture spiritual growth, and act on our values to help heal the world. I am the Reverend Justine Sullivan. I use the pronouns she and her, and I serve as one of your ministers along with the Reverend Kristen Kuriga, who is leading worship this morning with me. I just want to say that the beautiful flowers behind me are given in honor of Everardo Aguilar. Many of you were here yesterday to celebrate his amazing life, and the place was packed. And there were people from all ages, all different backgrounds, and it just touched me so deeply to see us gathering in that way and reminding us of what's possible. I also want to lift up and ask that we hold our beloved Peggy whole in our prayers and in our hearts. Peggy had a fall recently and has just had surgery for a broken hip, and she is recovering, and so we hold her in our thoughts and prayers. If you are visiting this morning, I extend a special welcome, and I would invite you to complete the visitor card in your order of service and return it to the welcome table. And if you're joining us online, you can also fill out a visitor card in the link on the live stream page or in the YouTube service description. We would love to connect with you. And if you've been coming here for a while and are starting to feel like maybe this is your spiritual home, please consider becoming a member of this community. You can learn more about becoming a member at the welcome table or by contacting our membership coordinator, Valeria Aguilar. Welcome to this space. Bring all of who you are and all the beauty of languages, cultures, and skin tones that come together in your uniqueness. You are welcome here. In all the ways you experience and express gender, you are welcome here. In the beauty that is who you love and how you love, you are welcome here. In all the ways you live, move, and experience your embodied self, you are welcome. with all of the religious and ethical traditions that inform your spiritual life. You are welcome here. Join us as we live into our shared values with love at the center. We are so glad you're here.
Now we invite you to rise once more in body or in spirit and join us in singing our church hymn in English and Spanish and reciting our church aspiration.
Good morning, friends.
Morning.
I'd like to invite any of the children or youth who would like to come up and join me for the Time for All Ages. Good morning. Oh, hi. Good morning. Oh, I see another person. Oh, hi. So, friends, you know, tomorrow is Labor Day, and so today in the service, we're thinking about how we help sustain each other as a community, and specifically how we think about money sometimes. And our story today is about just that. It's about how we think about our wealth and our money and what we have. And it's a longer story, so I'm going to jump right into it. The pictures are up on the screen, and it's called The Table Where Rich People Sit, by Bird Baylor, illustrated by Peter Parnell. If you could see us sitting here or at our old, scratched-up, homemade kitchen table, you'd know that we aren't rich. But my father is trying to tell us we are. You can't fool me, I say. We're poor. Would rich people sit at a table like this? My mother sort of pats the table, and she says, well, we're rich, and we sit here every day. Sometimes I think I'm the only one in my whole family who has any sense. Maybe I should mention that my parents made this table out of lumber somebody else threw away. They even had a celebration when they finished it. Understand, I like this table fine. All I'm saying is, you can tell it didn't come from a furniture store. It just doesn't look like a table where rich people would sit. But my mother thinks if all the rulers of the world could sit here, they would solve their arguments in half the time. But tonight, it's our kitchen, and our argument, and our family meeting, and our very spicy ginger cookies piled up on my mother's one good blue flowered plate exactly at the center of the table. I'm the one who called the meeting, and the subject is money. And I say we don't have enough of it. I tell my parents they should both get better jobs so we could buy a lot of nice new things. They look surprised. Right here, I may as well admit that my parents have some strange ideas about working. They think the only jobs worth having are jobs outdoors. They always work together, and their favorite thing is panning gold. They love to walk the wide arroyos and the dry stream beds where little flecks of gold are found. They don't mind planting fields of sweet corn or alfalfa. They like to pick chili and squash and tomatoes. They'll put up strong fences or train wild young horses, but they say they can't stand to be cooped up indoors. But I've called this meeting and I say, I bet you could make more money working in a building somewhere in town. Remember our number one rule, my dad says. We have to see the sky. You could look through a window, I say, but they won't even think about it. Finally, my mother says, all right, mountain girl, we're going to explain how we figure our money. You be the bookkeeper tonight. Let's make a list of all the money we earn in a year, says my father. How much is that? I ask. I'll write it down. But he says, not so fast. We have a lot of things to think about before we add them up. My mother says, we don't just take our pay in cash, you know. We have a special plan, so we get paid in sunsets, too, and in having time to hike around the canyons and look for eagle nests. But I say, can you give me one single number to write down on this paper? So we start with $20,000. That's how much my father says it's worth to him to work outdoors. I've just written $20,000 when my mother says, you better make that $30,000 because it's worth at least another $10 to hear coyotes howling back in the hills. So I write $30,000. Then she remembers that they like to see long distances and faraway mountains that change colors about 10 times a day. That's worth another $5,000 to me, she says. I scratch out what I had and write $35,000. My father thinks of something else. When cactus blooms, you should be there to watch it because it might be a color you won't see again any other day of your life. How much would you say that color is worth? 50 cents, my brother asks. But they decide another $5,000. So now I write $40,000. But I've forgotten how much my father likes to make bird sounds, so of course he has to add another $10,000 for having both day birds and night birds around us. Now, my mother says, let's see what our mountain girl is worth to us. I'm beginning to catch on to their kind of thinking, so I suggest I'm worth $10,000, even though my brother has begun to laugh. Don't underestimate yourself, my father says. Remember all those good lists you make for us? He's right, I do. They end up deciding I'm worth about $1 million. I say I don't think I am, but I write it anyway. In fact, it turns out that every one of us is worth $1 million. So we have $4,050,000. Then I realize I want to add $5,000 myself for the pleasure I have wandering in open country alone, free as a lizard, not following trails, not having a plan, just turning whatever way the wind turns me. They say that's certainly worth $5,000. So that makes $4,055,000. Finally, my brother says to put down $7 more for all the nights we get to sleep outside under the stars. We say $7 doesn't seem to be enough. We talk him into $5,000. Now my paper says $4,060,000, and we haven't even started counting actual cash. To tell the truth, the cash part doesn't seem to matter anymore. I suggest it shouldn't even be on our list of our kinds of riches. So, the meeting is over. The rest of them have gone outside to see the new silver moon, but I'm still sitting here at our nice homemade kitchen table with one cookie left on my mother's good blue-flowered plate, and I'm writing this book about us. I kind of pat the table, and I'm glad it's ours. In fact, I think the title of my book is going to be The Table Where Rich People Sit. The end. Well, thanks, friends. Yeah, I know I couldn't count up how much we're all worth to each other if I tried to make a list. I know you enrich my life in lots of ways that I probably couldn't even think of, and I hope that's true for all of us here, that we enrich each other's lives. And so, friends, I'd like us up here to stand up, and we're going to lead the congregation in our affirmation. I need help with your hands. We'll say it first in English and then in Spanish. We are Unitarian Universalists, a people of open minds, loving hearts, and welcoming hands. Somos unitarios, universalistas, personas de mentes abiertas, corazones amorosos, y manos que dan la bienvenida. And now I invite all the children and youth who'd like to join me and their other leaders out on the patio.
A few announcements. Lay ministers are available after the service to offer a listening presence if you have a joy or a sorrow that you would like to share. This morning's lay minister is Elise Ford. She's back there wearing the yellow stole. We also have a tour of our church campus today to allow you to see some of the many gems here. You can meet Laura Ball right here up on the chancel after the postlude, and she will be your tour guide. Is Laura here? Here she is, right there. Dining for Dollars is our beloved semi-annual community building fundraising auction of different events held between November and April this year, and we need you. So please consider hosting a fun-filled event at your home or on a hike at the beach or any number of different activities or destinations that folks can start to bid on October 5th. So you can go to our Dining for Dollars webpage under the Giving tab for the online event submission form and some creative ideas on what to offer. Thank you so much for your support for this biggest fundraising event of the year. And just a word to let you know that tomorrow there'll be a Labor Day rally and march at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, starting at the Waterfront Park in downtown San Diego. I know a number of us will be there. It will be lovely to see many of us there together tomorrow. On the fifth Sunday of the month, when there's a fifth Sunday, we share our offering with our Unitarian Universalist partner churches. This Sunday, we celebrate our partnership with the Unitarian Church in Romania, which has lasted for over 30 years, including visits and gifts and learning between our congregations. This week's offering will support the church in expanding vital community services, such as their food kitchen and deliveries to the homebound. You can give through text to give, and the number will be on your screen. You can also donate in person at one of the boxes in kind of the middle section of the meeting house through cash or check. And you can always donate at our website, firstusandiego.org. Thank you for your generosity. The morning offering will now be gratefully received.
How to Survive the Apocalypse by the Reverend Sean Parker Dennison. First, learn to listen, not only for enemies around corners and hidden places, but for the faint footsteps of hope and the whisper of resistance. Hone your skills, aim your heart towards kindness, and stockpile second chances. Under the weight of destruction, we will need the strong shelter of forgiveness and the deeper wells that give the sweet water of welcome. We have a place for you. When the world ends, we must not add destruction to destruction, not accept a beggar's bargain to fight death with more death. In order to survive the apocalypse, any apocalypse at all, we have to give up the counterfeit currency of self-sufficiency, the mistaken addiction to competition, the lie that the last to die has somehow survived.
We'll remain seated for our meditation hymn. Tomas and I will lead this together. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
De ti yo recibo, a ti te doy, así compartimos y vivimos hoy.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
Please join me in a time of meditation or prayer. I invite you, if it's comfortable for you, to close your eyes or perhaps have a soft gaze at the chalice or some other object in the room where you are right now. Let yourself be held by the chair or the sofa that you're sitting on. And just for a moment, see if you can notice the path that your breath travels in through your nose, down into your chest and your belly, and out of your mouth. In and out. And maybe imagine that you could breathe in all the way from the bottoms of your feet. Do a scan of your body, and if you notice any tension, see if you can send your breath there to loosen it. In recent days and weeks and months, our hearts have been heavy with the news. See if we can let that go for this moment in this space. allowing our breath to be the path that peace takes inside us, so that we might breathe out love into the world. Remembering that this is the way that others around the world breathe each night, breathing in a prayer for peace, breathing out a hope for love, breathing in a feeling of connection to all that is. And on the exhale, letting go of all that would divide us. We gather to remember that we are not separate. We are one. And that love makes peace possible. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen.
es mi pueblo y tu Dios también mío.
The kitchen table that I grew up at was a lot like the one in our story. It was made by my grandfather from wood he found when his children were small. It was really big, and it was solid, and it was well loved, marked by grooves and dings from all of those years of use. It was the gathering place for our family, where we had meals and told stories, where the adults debated politics, where we embraced after being apart, and where we grieved when someone died. Now, that was the table where I heard some of the important stories of my family, about my grandfather who grew up as an Italian immigrant in a tenement in Brooklyn, struggling to survive with 11 brothers and sisters on welfare. About my grandmother who grew up with a single working mom in Queens after the death of her father, having to raise her sister as if she was her parent when she was a child herself. It was at that table that I heard all these stories about their early life in the Great Depression in New York City and the hard work it took to build a different life for my family. Many of these stories were about surviving poverty. It was also the place where I first learned about how the economy worked. My grandfather was a carpenter who knew that a union job meant better wages and working conditions. He was a union supporter, but also a self-proclaimed company man. He worked for the same construction company for his entire working life. He often brought home materials that would get thrown away at the job site, and they'd come in the back of his station wagon, and he'd make them into something new: a birdhouse, a table, a deck. From my grandfather, I learned the importance of hard work and loyalty and conservation. But at that table, I was also taught some things that I've come to question as I've gotten older. I'm not sure they were ever explicitly said, but it was communicated. That our job determines our value. That our survival depends on our ability to produce something that others want or need. That there is not enough to go around. And that the workforce is this grand competition of skill and effort. And the ultimate goal in life is economic stability, followed by economic success. Now, these values were not just the values of my family, they're the values that are baked into our economic system. And I was deeply ingrained in them in my early life. I imagine that I'm not alone. So I want to invite you to take a moment to travel back to a table that you sat at as a child. So take a moment in your mind and travel back to that table that you sat at. What stories were you told about work? What were you taught about how the economy works? What core values were imparted? This Labor Day weekend, I want to explore some of these ideas because I believe that they shape how we relate to each other in powerful ways. They shape our personal relationships, our institutions, even our spiritual lives. So if we're seeking both spiritual growth and justice in our communities, I think that we need to trouble these ideas. I think that it's really essential. So I want to start with value. The economy seeks to determine what is valuable and then financially rewards that value. It says that certain people are worth more due to the kind of job they have, their education, how much they produce, or how much wealth they have to invest. Somehow under this system, we've come to justify paying people poverty wages, leaving people forced to go without basic necessities or to work several jobs to make ends meet. For those who have work, the constant pressure to achieve and to produce keeps us from getting time to spend with our families, for self-care, for rest, and for play. Now, one of the things that I love about Unitarian Universalism is that we challenge the idea that human worth needs to be justified. We declare that all people are inherently valuable, deserving of having our basic needs met, and also deserving of love and care and liberation. Our value is not dependent on what we produce or the kind of job we have. Each person is sacred, of inherent worth and dignity. This is a theological core of our faith tradition, and I think it is deeply countercultural. And I think as much as we pride it and we value it, it can be hard to live into. It can be hard to fully realize. Unitarian Universalism can be a difficult spiritual home for working class people and people surviving poverty. And I think one of the cores is this assumption about who is a potential Unitarian Universalist. And these assumptions are often based on class and education level. This isn't new in Unitarianism. It has deep roots in our history. This faith tradition emerged in the 1800s in New England from the standing order churches and mostly served the cultured elite, sometimes referred to as the Boston Brahmins. In Mark Harris's book, Elite, he describes the class makeup of Unitarians in the 19th century this way. Compared to other denominations, Unitarians had 22 times more lawyers, 20 times the number of bankers, twice as many merchants, and 28 times the number of manufacturers. They had almost no farmers, no craftsmen, no industrial proletariats. By the 1870s, Unitarians were almost entirely upper middle class and upper class. The average Unitarian was 13 times richer than the average member of any other singular denomination. What I think this meant was that the church was deeply invested in the economic system. Ministers who were beholden to the wealthiest church members, they purchased their pews and funded their salaries. They were hesitant to challenge economic inequality. The church embraced charity work, but not the work for systemic transformation. But I think we have a little bit of a different history on our Universalist side, and there's some really good things to learn there. Now, the Universalists were able to build much more class-diverse congregations. They had folks who were farmers and industrial proletariats and all sorts of folks who were coming together in one shared community. And one of the keys of the success of Universalism was that they valued different ways of knowing that wasn't just about formal education. These religious communities were characterized by reason, but they also honored lived experience and intuitive knowing and spiritual insight. I believe if Unitarian Universalism wants to grow in its class diversity, we need to learn to worship with our minds, but also our hearts and our emotions and our bodies and our imaginations. We need to work on challenging our assumptions about who is a potential Unitarian Universalist. Harris points out that we believe that people of different classes have different values, and forget that all classes of folks have inquiring minds. So next I want to talk a little bit about competition. In the economy, we're told that competition is what drives growth and health and innovation. Not only are companies competing with one another, but also our individuals. we're told that there are a finite amount of resources and that we have to compete with one another. Other people are often seen as threats to our success. We are told a false narrative that there is not enough. So we fight one another instead of questioning the system and reimagining the priorities of how we pay people and what we fund. Under this system, there seems to be an infinite amount of money for war, for the development of nuclear weapons, for the militarization of the police force and immigration enforcement, all said that they are protecting us from threats. We spend the majority of our resources trying to hoard and protect what we have, and somehow we never have enough for what we really need. Healthcare, education, food, living wages, support for children and elders and families. But I think that one of the key lessons of the pandemic was that we need cooperation more than competition. We are not individuals fending for ourselves. We are part of a mutual web of relationships. Our fate is bound up with one another. When we cared for ourselves by practicing social distancing or getting vaccinated or wearing a mask, we were also caring for our neighbors, and we were caring for those who are most vulnerable. I see this embodied every time I am at the food pantry. It is not competition, it is cooperation that helps us thrive. It's all these volunteers who come together to rescue food that would end up in the landfill, to redistribute it to thousands of people every week. Our survival is not dependent on competition, but on our cooperation. What if cooperation is actually more powerful than competition? I believe that learning these skills of cooperation is essential to our collective thriving. Let's talk a little bit about consumerism. We are taught from the time we are born to be consumers, and that implicitly everything is made for us to consume, to meet our needs and our desires, and that happiness comes from acquiring more and more. If I just get this one thing, I will finally be happy. Most things are disposable, meant to be thrown out when they break and replaced by a newer version. We measure the success of the economy, and in turn our nation, by consumer spending, even if it drives us to the brink of extinction through climate change. But I think this consumerism also influences the way we think about each other, about our communities and the earth. We might find ourselves coming to our relationships and asking, what's in it for me? We may forget that human relationships are not transactional. It's not about what we get from each other, but that we belong to one another. Our spiritual home is not a place where we come to consume spiritual wisdom or receive spiritual benefits, but where we come to be part of something, to commit to creating a community that we envision together. So what if we were to see ourselves as co-creators instead of consumers? If we set our hearts and minds towards experiencing life instead of consuming it? Finally, let's talk about economic success as the ultimate goal for ourselves, our families, and our nation. We spend so much time and energy focused on achieving and measuring economic success that I think sometimes we forget what we truly want and value. Joy, love, liberation, connection, spiritual growth. What if having enough resources was a given? What would you do with your time and your energy? I love how the family in our story thinks about wealth. The young child calls this family meeting at their kitchen table to talk about their finances. She's upset because she thinks they do not have enough, so she becomes the family bookkeeper. Her parents say, before we talk about money, let's talk about all the ways in which we are paid. In big open skies, in bird calls and blooming cactuses and wandering walks and quality time with each other. When they give a value to those things, they realize that they are indeed rich. The greatest source of our wealth is our relationship to each other and to the earth. So when we trouble some of these core values of our current economic system, I think we start to find our way to a new set of values, to inherent worth and dignity, to cooperation and reciprocity, to co-creation. We start to center relationships and we experience life instead of consuming it. And we identify new measures of success, joy and love and liberation, connection and spiritual growth. Church can be a place where we learn how to embody these values, where we make them central to the unfolding of our lives and our beloved community. I invite us, let's try on these ways of being together, an expression of our commitment to collective thriving. Blessed be, and amen.
Please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing our closing hymn, Somos el Barco.
Somos el barco, somos el mar, yo navego en ti, tú navegas en mí. We are the boat, we are the sea, I sail in you, you sail in me. The stream sings it to the river sings it to the sea sings it to the boat that carries you and me. Somos el barco, somos el mar, yo navego en ti, tú navegas en mí. We are the boat, we are the sea, I sail in you, you sail in me. The boat we are sailing on was built by many hands. The sea we are sailing on, it touches every land. Somos el barco, somos el mar, yo navego en ti, tú navegas en mí. We are the boat, we are the sea, I sail in you, you sail in me. So with our hopes we set the sails to face the wind once more, and with our hearts we chart the waters never sailed before. Somos el barco, somos el mar, yo navego en ti,
This Labor Day weekend, may we go forth and practice, centering the values of inherent worth and dignity and cooperation and co-creation. May we remember that we belong to one another and our fate is bound up together. Blessed be, and go in peace.